What's going on, everybody? It's Childish. We're back at it again. We got the next episode of Educate and Dominate, that one-on-one interview series where we take some of the top names in the game and get their insights so we can bring your game to the next level. My next guest is going to be joining me in introducing to you guys the premier series of the Educate and Dominate Operation Midgame. We got ourselves the Conquer rank player from the global side, one of the most respected players in Twitch, Once in Love. How are we doing today, sir?
Oh, we're doing good. How are you guys doing today?
We are doing very good right now. We got this episode that we got to put out for y'all. A multitude of episodes to put out for y'all. I've been super excited to do this for quite some time. So before we even begin, sir, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to work with you and get this stuff out for the community.
Always, I'm honored to be taken into account for the show.
Yeah, buddy. So if you guys are new to the channel, welcome to the channel. The Educate and Dominate, we have been focused on bringing some of those top players in the game. About a month ago, we reached out when I hit the 10K sub mark and see what the community wants. They responded. It was unanimous. They wanted some more mid-game content. So Once in Love is going to be helping us out with that topic. We're going to be hitting a variety of things in various episodes. This is going to be like a mini series for you guys, hitting up some dragons, some giants, some TOA talk, even some Rift of World talk. We got a lot of stuff in store for you today. This time around, we're going to be focused on the first aspect, which is going to be the giants. That being said, I want to go ahead and take a brief moment to give people an update on who you are, One. So why don't you go ahead and fill us in? What got you first into like the video gaming world, and what brought your way into Summoners War?
I guess video gaming in general. When I was younger, my uncle used to play a lot of RTS. He used to play Warcraft 3 and StarCraft. So I got really into playing Dota, which is Defense of the Ancients. It's kind of like the original MOBA per se. But after that, I played a lot of League when I was younger through high school and stuff. Played in from the beta in through till about season 3. I got really high ranked in there, and then I started playing Dota 2. Again, played a lot of that up until probably through my first year of university. And then I got my new phone in probably my second or third year of university. I think it was actually my third year. It was last year. And I decided I wanted to try a new mobile game. I had played a few before, Legend of the Cryptids, Brave Frontier, just stuff for fun. But then I found this game called Summoners War, and I thought it was really interesting. So I didn't really know what to do for probably like 5 or 6 months. I kind of just farmed Hall of Magic B4 for months on end and just messed around.
Yeah.
But I ended up connecting with some friends, old high school friends who actually did play Summoners War, and they started guiding me through how to get there. And then Panda Soshi, well-known Twitch staff that's in the Summoners War community pretty often, noticed my stream one time when I was streaming art, and that I was talking about Summoners War, this game that I was kind of getting back into, and he kind of guided me and taught me how to start playing the game again, fuse Veramos, start farming giants, work towards TOA, etc. Yeah, so I guess that's how I've gotten into it, and now I stream a lot of Summoners War, and actually managed to get a partnership with it on Twitch.
Gotcha. And so, kind of leading into the Twitch talk, you were talking about coming on board and assisting the community and doing it. What part of that? What part of even got you involved in the Twitch community? What is it about that you just said, you know what, I want to help. I want to give advice to people. Like, what got you into that?
And I guess I thought about it from this way. I was always looking at YouTube videos for advice in games, but I found that a lot of the time, especially with a game like this where it's so meta heavy, the advice for early game, the advice in general just changes pretty consistently. So finding a video can be helpful as long as it's recent, but if you don't have anything super recent, you kind of have to go to the live stream area to find really good, solid advice.
Right. I know I've talked to you off camera quite a few, and we talked a lot about the fact that with regards to content that is put out, it constantly gets outdated and whatnot. So it's always good to get a fresh perspective on things, which is why this kind of brought us here today and talk about the the big game aspect. So let's get that first question out of the way. There's going to be some people that are like, "What is mid game? Like, what is your definition of mid game?"
For me, my definition of mid-game is pretty aggressive compared to most, but if I were to dial it back to where about the average is, I would say mid-game is when you start farming giants up until the point where you're probably pushing Guardian 1 or Guardian 3 in Arena and Guild Wars respectively.
Gotcha. And so coming on board with regards to Giants P10, that's going to be the focus on, but naturally, before we even dive into Giants P10, there's going to be some stuff done along the way to get us prepared for that. As far as runes go, we know that they are the foundation of this game. How do you go about setting up your runes with regards to GB10? How do you get your units ready?
Once you've done your basics, clear scenarios, clear your Hall of Magics and elements up to B7s. Once you start working towards farming that team, once you have, I would say, the three core units, which for the farming perspective is going to be Bernard, Bela, Dion, and Shannon, you can probably just start doing Mount White Raygon on Hell scenario for Swift sets. I would start by doing the boss stage. If possible, if your team's strong enough, you can bring in a fodder piece. If not, you bring in 4 units that can clear it, even if you're not leveling them up. The reason you farm the boss stage is because it has the chance of 5-star runes. So it'll give you random slots because of the boss stage, but the stages before, 1 through 6, will give you a rune slot according to whatever scenario it is. So if it's scenario 2, it'll always give you a slot 2. So basically what you do is you farm the boss stage until you get enough rune sets, and then you farm a specific scenario slot if you're missing. Let's say you have 3 Swift sets, but you need a slot 5, a slot 6, and a slot 4. So you farm 5, 6, and 4 for those 3 slots that you're missing.
Gotcha. Yeah, Mount Wet Dragon is going to be the one to go there for the majority of it. With regards to, some of the people that generally kind of hop right into GB10, they realize that some of the runes that we get early on in there, kind of have a little bit of like luxury to them. You value the stats over sets initially. Why is that?
Because Giants B10 isn't really necessarily about having sets that give beneficial effects, more as like meeting a minimum requirement for stats. It's hard to meet stats in the early game because you don't have super high quality runes. You're working with white or green runes, maybe blue runes if you're lucky, but you don't have the opportunity to get purple or legendary runes very often, so you're going to be rolling into probably low amount of substats.
Gotcha. And so, talking about the runes that you just mentioned here, with regards to 5-star runes, it is obviously going to be very important for the people to focus on getting certain runes that are going to provide those percentage bonuses that we want in the 2 and the 4 to 6 slot. Do you have any specific recommendations that they should look out for with regards to the 4-star runes in any other slot, or what do you think?
If you manage to get any 5 or 6-star Swift or any speed slot 2 runes, you should definitely keep them in the early game. The difference between a 4-star and a 5 or 6-star speed slot 2 rune is really, really, really different. So they're definitely worth keeping the 5 stars, even if the substats aren't necessarily the best. Sometimes that, let's say 10 extra speed could be really, really helpful.
Gotcha. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get into some of those core units. I heard you mention Shannon, Bernard. We got Bela, Dion. What are some of the other units that you want to talk about with regards to GB10?
Pretty much just Veramos. Veramos is the main 4th one, and that would complete your core, and then we have +1 options afterwards. So the reason everyone says Veramos is there's 3 main reasons. 1, his base stats are amazing. 2, he's farmable. And 3, he's the most consistent cleanser in the game. He has a passive that allows him to cleanse debuffs every single turn, and he also gets slightly healed for it. On top of that, he has global leader skill for HP that's at nat 5 level, so 33% global. And if you're not, familiar with what that means you can use it everywhere. There's no limitation for it. He has an AoE stun that's HP scaling, and then he also has a first skill that is speed scaling and does dots.
Gotcha. And with regards to these 4 units that you mentioned here, out of all 4 of those, this one's the one that's going to be, fusible, farmable, or fusible that we're going to have to get. My question to you is, and some of the people will ask, as we're climbing up in the ranks and getting some of these easily attained units, Veramos is going to be by far one of the ones that, while it may take a while to make, it's definitely going to be worth your time. Where do you go for the people that are trying to get the material to get this unit, and maybe they get a couple other win units? Do you tell them, stay away from those and focus on this one because this is just going to be too beneficial for you early on, or do you say just kind of bring it up, as you go?
It depends. Again, that goes back into the +1 options. So if you get a really solid like wind unit, or sometimes even a water unit, usually a wind unit because their rune requirements are lower for starting giants. But if you get a really good wind unit that is that can farm and is also going to be used in your Giants B10 team. So let's say you get like a Teshar or a Lucian or an Amir really, really early on into the game. You could viably 6-star that first before your Veramos, but you have to keep in mind that working towards your Veramos is your main goal because it takes a lot of time and a lot of essences.
Gotcha. And of course, with regards to this particular unit and the stats you're looking for, what are going to be the most important things to focus on?
Eremos, because he's the consistent cleanser in your team, you want to meet a speed requirement and a minimum HP requirement. So usually the recommended minimum HP requirement, and this is not including his leader skill or towers, non-wind units should have about 18k HP and wind units should have about 15k HP, while still holding maybe about 600 plus defense.
Okay. And so with this one having a great base defense, so you're definitely going to hit that high mark there. So
Yeah, for sure. With speed recommendations for Veramos and Bela, you probably want about 170 plus or 180 plus if you can. With Bernard, you probably just want to hit some sort of whatever is good, really. Bernard, you can go as fast as you can, but you also want to keep, for the early game, you want to keep the stats in mind. You want to give him enough HP so he survives. The main ideal is on everyone, you want about 40% accuracy if possible. You want everyone to land their debuffs. You want Barrow to stun people. You want him to land his dots on the bosses. You want Bela to be able to defense break units, to be able to strip the attack buff off of the boss. You want Shannon to land glancing and AoE slow debuff. And you want Bernard to land his attack and defense break.
Gotcha. And so again, with this one here, we kind of mentioned from early on, Swift says going to be the way to go because it's just going to give you the stats that you need to go ahead and get the jump on your team.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Awesome.
Now, something that a lot of people get trapped into, two things. One was Shannon. Everyone says Despair. Despair is notably better, but it is a set that gives a beneficial effect, not pure raw stats. So not everyone can viably run Despair right off the bat. If you need to, you can definitely run Swift or energy sets on Shannon. She does have pretty low base stats, so if you don't 6-star her right away, you might need the extra stats instead of a set that gives beneficial effects.
Right on. And then, of course, we got ourselves next one up, Bela Dion. Where are we rocking out with that one?
Bela Dion, probably built very similar to Vero. You want that speed requirement, you want that HP requirement, you want that accuracy. But gotcha. A lot of people underrate Bela Dion. They're like, oh, Amin will be okay. But, it's really not because Amin has such a high rune requirement compared to Bela.
Gotcha. I'm trying to think here. We made the comment about the 6-star focus, and if you got a unit that's going to be beneficial to GB10, focus on that. If with regards to any other units that can help you out, is there anything else that even though we got these core units and these +1 units that you've been mentioning, is there any recommended +1 units that people could focus on if they don't have some of the ones that you recommended?
So if you don't have, the speed farmers, the lecture units, there are free-to-play options. You can have something like Konamiya, which cleanses and heals. You have Darien, who has a damage mitigation passive that also gives... he also has an attack break and a defense break. And I guess with that Darien pick, if you're blessed with the Diaz from your... Famon L&D, you could use him as well for the same role. He just does the same thing with a little bit more and also has higher base stats. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, there's not really too many units. The main roles you can fit for your +1 are going to be damage mitigation, a cleanser, a reviver, or a damage dealer. So if you have something like Michelle, maybe that could be effective. If you have a Brienne or an Iona for your healers and your cleansers, you have units like Chasoon. You could use Eladriel, who fits both a reviver and a healer role. Right. There's lots of options, but a lot of them aren't very free to play. They're not very easily obtainable units.
Gotcha. And so after we've kind of set aside and gotten the runes that we need from the Mountain Ragon, worked our way to GB10 or working our way up to GB10, a lot of us are going to get stuck along the way on various levels or whatnot. What do you feel is the kind of spot or that threshold to stay in a particular zone and focus on that one until you kind of move on over from like, GB5 to GB6 to GB8, so on and so forth? I mean,
I think, just use a friend's rep to try to clear. Find a friend or someone in the default channel who has a really strong rep that can clear it. And, if you get stuck and you're really close, don't be afraid to use your one crystal revive to clear it. You're not going to be farming it with crystal revives, but, if you need to clear it so you can get to B10, and that's what you should do. When I did it, I think I used a friend's Camilla rep, and I had to revive twice on GB9. But it was worth it. Definitely worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I think I spent like... When I first started, I probably spent like a good like 50 to 70 crystals getting from GB7 to GB8 and then from GB9 to GB10. I definitely probably should have done a little bit more than I did, but I was so exhausted from trying to climb up and wanting to do what everybody else is doing that I had to do it, man, you know? How about you? Did you struggle along the way? How many times do you think you probably reset it?
I don't think I did. I had really solid advice when I started really like
Ah.
playing. I had really, really solid advice. So like, I guess it's a backstory. I fused Veramos on March 6th and I started farming on March 8th. So since then, I have a 45-second Giants team, a 1-minute Dragons team, a 130 to 145 Necro team, a 2 to 215 R5 team. I can get Conk 3 in Arena, and my World Boss score is usually G1.
Not too bad, not too
So,
bad. I like
you
it,
know,
I like it. All right,
just remember, guys, efficient farming, you can get there. You can get
hell
there.
yeah. So regarding the Giants and working our way on up, you know, regardless of how much we have everybody focus on Giants, you know that no matter what, when people see, you know, mid to late game players or late to end game players, there's so much focus on the Giants, the Dragons, you know, getting the B10 and getting those violent routes on because violent is king, you know, speed is king, and everyone makes these comments. So with regards to the Swift set versus violent set, I think one of the biggest things that people, you know, get at is you know when they get the Swift set, they hit a certain threshold and they're like, okay, let's go ahead and switch to violent. You, on the other hand, feel that depending on where their stats rely, it could be, you know, you might want to keep the Swift, you know, over the violent. What's your kind of threshold with regards to that, and what's the reason why?
Um, there's a minimum speed you should be on before you switch from Swift to Violent, especially on supports. The base level speed difference, I would say you need to be above 170 on Violent. If you take the average unit speed at about 100 and you say, okay, Swift set's going to give 25% bonus, so now it's 125. If you have a plus 15 slot 2 speed rune, that's 5 or 6 star, you gain either 39 speed or 42 speed, respectively. So that's going to be, let's say you're using a 6 star rune, that's going to be 167 speed difference. So if you're on Violent, you have to overtake the raw stat bonus, and then it makes that set more worth it.
Gotcha. Cool, cool.
So
Awesome.
long story short, TLDR on that, 170 speed Violent or faster, never below.
Right.
It's not
Right.
worth it.
Got to get the 170 speed. I love it. I love it. All right. So that's pretty much all I have with regards to the Giants. Is there anything that you can think about when it comes to Giants, some common mistakes people make that you want to like remind them about or focus along the way as they're climbing up in the ranks?
Remember, guys, you don't have to fall into the trap of building a farmer. Veramos is a farmer, and there are a lot of really effective 5-star farmers. You don't have to 6-star one, especially if it's a fire unit like Sath at Rauk. It's not going to help you very much in the game for quite a while, besides farming. So if you can, work towards your Veramos, 6-star your Veramos. Veramos and Bela on 6-star, plus Bernard, Shannon, and Darian all at 5 stars can actually clear Giants B10 at 100% success rate at about 5 minutes if you have the right runes for it. So don't be discouraged if you start failing. A big importance to realize how to progress is when you get stuck on something, you need to watch where you're getting stuck and try to figure out why. You know, you can always tell someone, you know, go on Twitch, oh, yo, can you look at my monster box? I'm not sure why I'm stuck here. I mean, if I look at your box, I see you have the right stats. I don't know why you're stuck. It might just be because, you know, you're missing attack break or you're missing defense buff or something. You know, it's something you have to watch yourself and find out, because if you can give that advice to me, if you're saying, man, my defense buff isn't up often enough, I seem to be dying to the boss because it death breaks and kills me. You know, once you tell me that information, I can help you a lot more, because then I understand what is missing in your team. But if I can't visually see you doing the run, it's a lot harder for me. So just remember that, guys. And when people try to give you advice, please don't ever flame them, because they're really going out of their way to help you, especially people like Childish, who goes beyond, above and beyond to help everyone in the Summoners War community with his videos.
I try my very best to do it, but as I've stated before in previous Educate and Dominate videos, the reason why I've created this is because of my lack of knowledge compared to some of the people that have been theory crafting for a very long time hence the educate and dominate and bringing on expert players like yourself. So don't get it twisted. We're here because of you, my man. Don't try to twist it like I'm the Jesus. I am not the
Hey,
Jesus.
a little bit of Iron
Yeah,
Jesus here. I've seen some of those units you have.
yeah. I'll tell you what, though. I'll tell you what. But, one last thing that I wanted to go ahead and put out there, with regards to these videos that we're going to be coming out, we're going to be giving some very, very, broad information. But we're, in addition to that, we're going to, minimize it, detail it so that you can optimize your team in an effort to progress your game. Without a doubt, this game is one of the most unique games in the game, providing a wide variety of units. I think over 900 monsters now. When I first started out, I played the game and I got this unit and that unit and this unit and that unit. And so, naturally, I just wanted to put all these runes on every single unit and focus all over the place. We're giving you guidance to
Not do that.
To basically not do that. If you want to enjoy yourself and try out of quite a few things, by all means, feel free, it's your thing. But you are coming here for advice, so keep in mind that while the advice that we're going to give you is sound, it won't really do too much for you unless you apply for it. So again, I know that's kind of just like common sense when it comes to these things, but I still have people messaging me after videos that we put out, saying, hey, I'm having an issue with this after they watch the video when there should be no issue. It comes down to a matter of focusing those best runes on the best units, and like I said, sticking with these core units that once is mentioned, in addition to some +1 monsters that are either farmable or easily obtainable, is going to be your best go into completing Giant Speed 10 so we can move on over to the next topic. All right, so that is all I got for this episode number 1. We will be right back with the next episode, TOA, I believe it is.
Yeah, TOA.
It is TOA. All right. So stay tuned, guys. We'll see you guys next week. It's your boy Childish, and once with Childish Plays checking out. Take care, and we'll see you next time, guys. We're out.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.